Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome to another episode of Corey's Spectra Services YouTube channel. Now, I'm very excited today because I'll be talking about a topic I mentioned, but I haven't really talked about before, mindfulness. What is it? Why is it important? And I'll be giving you a little bit of tips on how to get the practice going. And again, this is a practice, so if anyone started and stopped because they're not sure if they're doing it right, it's a process. So I want to get started. What is mindfulness? Now, there is a definition by Joseph Goldstein: the qualities and power of the mind that is aware of what is happening without judgment and without interference. Okay, so what does that really mean? Okay, and I should also say that Joseph Goldstein is a Buddhist teacher. And so and from a Buddhist perspective, they define mind as a little bit different than Western culture definition of mind. I won't get into that, but just to get you started, I'll be probably doing more episodes breaking down Buddhism and some of their definitions. But for the time being, um, it's really about being aware of our thoughts, our emotions, all of those things, what's going on in our body, the experiences that are happening around us. I just jotted up some notes on my new whiteboard, if you can notice that here. And this is Buddha's foundations of mindfulness. Bodies, our emotions, our feelings, our minds and selves. So in this context, we'll just use thought for simplicity and the world around us. Okay, so that was Buddha's context. And so we're going to use this idea very similarly in the way that being very conscious of what's going on in our head, what's our emotions, what is the experience happening in our body, and what's around us. So again, this is about being aware without judgment. So what often happens is we have a thought and we automatically judge it. Oh, that's bad. I'm going to beat myself up about that, right? This is not helpful, because then what we end up doing, there's a thought and an emotion, as we've talked about before. Now we're having a new thought and emotion on that, and we're pulling ourselves down even further. So let's say I have a thought like, I am worried that my boss will say something, will come down on me or whatever. Okay, that's a worry, that's a thought. But when we're present, we can kind of observe it. Okay. Same with our emotions, because that thought is attached with the emotion of worry, so we can observe those things. Oftentimes with worry, there's an emotional experience as well, right? We start tightening, maybe vibrating a little bit, those kind of things, right? And so we can observe that, oh, I'm feeling it. Oftentimes when we experience a physical reaction to fear, for example, we like to fight it. And that only intensifies because we're angry about ourselves or whatever. So we've just added another emotional experience to our physical bodies, right? And then there's what's going on around us. We often also attach meaning to stuff that's happening that may not be relevant, really. And so what happens is, if we're attaching meaning that may not be relevant, is we're going, oh, what, that situation is similar to what happened 10 years ago. And so we automatically attach meaning, our emotion and thought patterns from that time period, but not really about the present situation, right? So this is the tricky thing. So being able to, basically what you're doing is you're observing what's happening without detachment. So you're not attaching emotion. Uh, you're kind of being a scientist in this situation, right? You go, oh, this is what's happening, but not attaching meaning to it. It doesn't mean you don't create a choice from it. It doesn't mean you eliminate the emotion, because the emotion is still there. It's still information, right? But you're observing it. Okay, I'm afraid about this situation. What am I going to do about this, right? Um, and it's the interesting thing is, at least in my experience, and I would love to hear what other folks' experiences are with mindfulness, is that when you observe it, it's not like it disappears. In some ways, it's more ready available, but you are more in control, right? It hasn't disappeared, hasn't gone away. I've used mindfulness in terms of my own fatigue. Those who have known me know I experience a lot of fatigue, low energy, those kind of things. And when I get into mindful space, I can observe it that fatigue is not as powerful anymore. Okay. It doesn't mean it goes away. It just means, oh, this is what I'm experiencing right now. I back away. I can now make a choice of what I need to do regarding that fatigue. So it's like, okay, this is the level of fatigue I have in this moment. Oh, I have so much I need to do today. This is what I have to get done. This is what I would like to get done. So what I'm going to do is saying, okay, with my mindfulness, I can back away from that experience a little bit so it's not as potent or overpowering for me. I can get the immediate things done I have to get done. Go, okay, that's done. Great. Now I can do self-care, right? That's the tricky thing about this. Now you can make choices about how you're going to take care of yourself, how you're going to navigate the day better, how you're going to interact with that friend or that family member or boss or whoever, right? By just taking that time, that moment to yourself, and go, oh, the other piece about this is that we run through our day so quickly. Are we really taking in what's happening in the moment, right? We're so programmed that we run by program. We're really robots. Let's be honest here. We have so much trauma, so much things that happened from our childhood, and we're running from those programs. We're not really running consciously. We are running as if we've been programmed by some master computer or something. Uh, Now, mindfulness is the one tool, there's multiple tools, one tool where we can step away and go, oh, that's a program I have that's coming up right now. Maybe I might want to look at that, right? And it allows us, and it also allows us to say, okay, that's a program that's coming up. Maybe I can make another choice in what the program is telling me to do. Okay. So that is part of that. And I'm not saying you definitely want to, if something comes up, you go, oh, that's a program, something that's really creating a block for me in terms of a relationship or moving in my career path or whatever, then you might want to go to a counselor or someone to, figure that out, get at the root of that trauma or that event, that programming, so that it's no longer there. That's the thing about mindfulness. Mindfulness doesn't eliminate the programming, it just makes you aware of it. Okay, so this is the next thing. How do you implement this? So the first thing is, if you are a person with mental health issues, high level of anxiety, uh, those kind of things, if your mind is going rapidly, mile a minute, you have low self-esteem, one thing about mindfulness, especially initially, it puts you face to face with those emotions, those thought patterns, those behaviors that you're doing really quickly. And if you're not ready, it can pull you down really quickly. So if you have high levels of depression, anxiety, all of those kind of things, you may want to strategize how you're going to navigate and bring mindfulness in with all the things that you're experiencing. There are folks who have a really rapid mind, and then when they started doing mindfulness and looking, it got so overwhelming, they basically had a breakdown. So I want to be real about this. Sometimes we rush folks into mindfulness or any form of meditation practice, and it may not be a good experience. It may not be helpful in that moment. Um, Sometimes what we got to do, and I'll be talking more about this when I talk about other anxiety and mental health issues, about strategies to do this specifically, but you may want to strategize um, a whole bunch of life skills and medication and mindfulness practice all together as a package, or whatever that looks like. Everyone's going to be different because there could be a combination of stuff going on in your life, whatever. So it may be something you may need to look at, strategize with the professional to make sure you do that properly. So saying that, the first thing, if you do decide to try mindfulness, the first thing I really suggest, especially even if you have a little bit of anxiety or some mental health issues, start very basic. Sometimes I find that mindfulness teachers start 2 or 3 steps ahead, and this is what gets folks into trouble. Okay. Um, so the first thing I want to say is just start with the breath. Very basics, right? Slow the mind down. When the mind slows down, right? Now it's not going so fast, and it's more manageable. If you're trying to observe it when it's going a mile a minute, doesn't matter who you are, you're going to get overwhelmed and you start facing so much, you're not going to be able to do it, right? So if you slow the mind down first, and then you can step towards observing it. But the first step is slow it down, start with the breath. Okay, so one of the breath techniques I was taught actually in my counseling program that I go back to on a regular basis is basically if you breathe in and then out. Okay, just basic in and out. Now, when you breathe in, try to do a full body breath. And some of you may not have been taught how to do that. Most of us in Western society, and I know I certainly was as a beginner, a very shallow breather. In other words, breathe from the chest. Now, what that actually means is that we're not breathing our full capacity, full lung capacity. So what we want to do, excuse me, put your hand on your belly and breathe in, out. So what you will feel when you breathe towards the hands is that you will breathe more fully, right? Instead of just breathing up by the chest, you'll breathe more by the stomach. Okay. The other thing is, if possible, you want to sit up straight, tongue on the roof of your mouth. Um, this is not as important just for basic breathing, but it's a good practice to start, because if you decide to go into longer breathing techniques or meditation, sometimes you might drool. May not be something you want to experience. So tongue at the roof of your mouth, because that helps to stop it. Okay, and the other piece is, yeah, make sure your back is straight. You know, you're sitting square. You may be standing, depending on the context of what you're doing. But just to start, this is always a good technique to do. Excuse me. And so, if you breathe in, right to your belly, out. Now, when you do this, stay in. You don't have to say it out loud, but say it in your head. In, out, in, out, right? And do that about 10 times, right? And what you will notice is the mind automatically shuts down because it has a hard time getting through the words in and out. Not impossible, but in my experience, it just really slows it down, right? And just start with 10 breaths. Just and you may want to go longer depending on what you're doing. So maybe an event happened and you're really angry and you just really need to take some long, deep breaths and just slow down, calm down, and slow your mind down. And that'll be helpful in that way as well. So let's do the 10 breaths, and then I'll show you another technique that I believe is really important for mindfulness. Okay, so in, out, 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 in, out. Okay. Another thing I should mention before we go on, mindfulness, especially if you're trying to be ready, aware in the environment you are in, it's good to also keep your eyes open. As my Buddhist teacher, Dr. Rune, always says, is to inside, outside, same, right? So for those that never heard that statement before, basically what that's saying is what's going on inside is a reflection of the outside world, right? So whatever's happening here is our kind of lens to the outside world, and we also create this self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So if we believe something is happening, we start behaving in ways as if that's already happened, and then we make it happen, right? This is a self-fulfilling prophecy is a basic psychological social work term, and then we all do it. We all, create ways that we stop ourselves. The other way to look at outside, inside, same is that when we're in mindfulness, oftentimes it's about being aware and present in the environment we are in. If we close our eyes, right, we're just focusing inside, which are good for certain techniques and practices. But for what we want to do, we want to be aware of the outside world as well as inside. So for these techniques, it's very important to keep the eyes open. Okay. So the last piece is we're going to be doing a body scan. And this is probably one of the most powerful mindfulness techniques I have used. For those who know, what's his name? There's a lot of mindfulness uh, authors and stuff. Author, can't remember his name, Power of Now, and people, authors around that really focus on connecting with their body. And this is what I'm going to be doing for you. And the value of that, when you really connect to your body, really start feeling it as a whole in your mind, then you can expand outward very easily and just be present. Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm going to walk you through a mindfulness body scan. Okay, and so there's more pieces to it because it's a practice, that kind of thing. But I want to just give you some basic techniques on this. Okay, so again, straight back, sitting up, sitting on your bum. back straight, like I said, tongue on your roof of your mouth. Just feel your body relax. Deep breath in. Another deep breath in. Now, I want you to pay attention to your toes. What's happening with your toes? How do they feel right now? The pressure of the toes in your shoes to the ground. What's the feeling of your bottom of your shoe, the foot, the heel? How does it feel? The roof of your foot, how does it feel against the top of your shoe? Your ankle. Now your legs. How does the legs feel? Your knees. Is there any pain or discomfort there? Your legs, your upper legs. Your hips. Your bum against the chair. Your genitals. Your tummy. How does your chest feel? Is there pressure against? Does your chest feel congested or anything? Your back, your shoulders, your arms, your hands. Is there any tingling? Does it feel the temperature of the room? Your neck, your face, back of your head, the roof of your head, your crown. Now, as you now pay attention to your whole body, what does it feel together? And then I want you to extend your presence, your focus beyond your body to the whole, just a few centimeters from your body, then expand outward, behind you, in front of you, to your sides. Your awareness of your body as well as the room that you are in. Is there anything going on in the room? Is there any smells or sounds? Any movements? Pay attention to that in this moment, right now. Okay. Deep breath in. Another deep breath in. One more. Okay. So I hope that experience is maybe some of you haven't done any form of mindfulness before, so that was a new experience. I would love to hear what your experience was, all of those kind of things. If anyone had any challenges, please let me know. And yeah, I can walk you through those basic steps. If you have any questions, please let me know. Again, if you have any, challenges with mental health or rapid thought patterns, that kind of thing, again, you may want to, uh, you know, work with someone to do those practices. Again, those are just basics, and it takes time and practice to get to a place where you can, oh, this is where I'm at. This is how I feel this moment, and just sit in that, right? And like all things, it's a practice, which means it takes practice to get really good at it. I know for me, I go in waves, right? Just because I'm teaching this doesn't mean I'm always in a mindful place. I wish. Um, and even Eckhart Tolle, who was the author of, that book I mentioned, he even talks about, like, he's probably a little bit more on the mindfulness end of the spectrum than he should be. He should probably be in the middle, right? In terms of when you finally get to a place of mindfulness, you want sometimes to be able to be in your head to, whether that it means, doing a to-do list that you have to do or whatever, using your brain. And then you just, other times you need to step out of it and just be present in the moment. I know this is something I use a lot in my private practice, just really being present with my clients, with workshops I'm doing, that kind of thing. It's so handy because it gets you out of that fear-based thinking, anxieties, all of those kind of things. And I used to have a lot of anxieties. Again, that'll be another talk for next week. But these things are something to consider if you're going to try mindfulness, right? Again, at some point, I will do a deeper, or probably several episodes on Buddhism and its definitions. I just wanted to highlight a few things because a lot of my practices come from Buddhism, but you don't have to be Buddhist or any spirituality, really. There's a lot of research and scientific research behind the mindfulness and meditation practices. So, and this can be for just about anyone, as long as, like I said, depending on where you come from, you are strategizing and you may need some help, especially just to begin with. Anyway, that's all I have today. If you have any questions or comments, please comment below. If you like this episode, you want to get more, subscribe, click the bell button. I will put some of the info that I talked about, some of the sources from this video down below in the description. And hope to see you next time. Thank you so much.